In the previous lecture, we have learned about the urinary incontinence, what are the various types, about the anatomy, and now today in this lecture we will be studying the stress urinary incontinence. What is it? It is the incontinence in which the woman passes scanty or large amount of urine with some events that cause increased intra-abdominal pressure without detrusor activity, like in cases of coughing, sneezing, laughing. And the prevalence of this stress incontinence increases with age. In Western countries, it is nearly 40%, along with prolapse. 80% of urinary incontinence can be cured or improved with simple exercises and minor surgeries. What can be the causes of stress incontinence? It could be the congenital weakness of internal urethral sphincter, such as seen in young nullipara, or there can be congenital defects as seen in case of short urethra, that urethra is less than 1 centimeter, or wide bladder neck and separation of symphysis pubis. Trauma to the bladder neck due to vaginal delivery or operation. Incidence of stress incontinence increases with parity due to repeated birth trauma. In menopause is also one of the factor for stress incontinence. Due to lack of estrogen, it leads to atrophy of the bladder neck supports. Pregnancy and administration of estrogen and progesterone to treat endometriosis, this also creates pseudo pregnancy state. The hormonal imbalance with increased progesterone weakens the internal urethral sphincter. Now, how the stress incontinence develops. There are two hypotheses. One is anatomical and the other one is neurogenic. Anatomical may be due to urethral hypermobility or the intrinsic sphincter deficiency. When the urethral supports are weak, the urethra moves down and there is funneling of the urethra, leading on to leakage of the urine. Intrinsic sphincter deficiency, normally what happens, intravesical pressure is less than the intraurethral pressure. So there is no leakage of urine. But when there is childbirth injury or aging, it shifts the urethra to the lower side, causing unequal pressure distribution between the bladder and urethra, leading on to stress incontinence. Increased intra-abdominal pressure forces the urethra against intact pubocervical fascia. Normally, what happens whenever there is increased intra-abdominal pressure, it will force the urethra against the pubocervical fascia, thus closing the urethra and maintaining the continence. But when there is defective fascial support, it allows the posterior rotation of the uretrovesical junction due to increased pressure, and this will open the urethra and will cause the urinary loss. Then comes the neurogenic hypothesis. When there is childbirth, at times there is injury to the pudendal nerve causing urethral dysfunction, and there is decreased urethral resistance and development of stress incontinence. Then what is true or genuine stress incontinence? When intra-abdominal pressure leads to leakage of urine and the detrusor contraction is minimal or there is no detrusor contraction, that is the genuine stress incontinence. So how to investigate a woman who comes with stress incontinence? First, you have to take the history. You have to ask the woman the duration of the complaint, whether the problems are worsening or the triggering events like cough, sneeze, lifting, banding, feeling of urgency, sound of running water, all this triggers the leakage of urine or not. Then associated symptoms like increased frequency of maturation or urgency, dysuria, pain with full bladder, or history of urinary tract infections. Concomitant symptoms of fecal incontinence or pelvic organ prolapse. You have to take the history of medical problem, if any. In obstetrical history, you take the history of any difficult deliveries, grand multiparity, forceps use, obstetrical lacerations, and large babies. History of any pelvic surgery, especially prior incontinence procedure. Suppose prior she has undergone some incontinence procedure, hysterectomy, or pelvic floor reconstructive procedures, spinal or CNS surgery, smoking. Smoking also increases the intra-abdominal pressure, chronic smoking. Then history of any drugs such as cholinergic or anticholinergic drugs, alpha blockers, estrogen replacement therapy, beta mimetics, sedatives, muscle relaxants, diuretics, ACE inhibitors. Then what are the reversible causes of incontinence? It is to be remembered by the mnemonic diapers. D stands for delirium, I for infection, A for atrophic urethritis or vaginitis, P for pharmacological causes, neurological causes, E for urinary production, R for restricted mobility, S for physical causes. Ask her to maintain a voiding diary in which she has to write time when she has the urine, then the volume of the urine passed. So she has to maintain a bladder chart. Then you have to do the physical examination to note the mental status of the woman, perineal sensations are present or not, perineal reflexes, patellar reflexes to rule out all the neurological causes. Then you have to do the per abdomen examination to rule out any mass per abdomen. Then on cardiovascular examination, you have to rule out any congestive heart failure or the lower extremities edema. And you have to do the gait assessment of the patient. You do the pelvic examination to rule out the prolapse. Then, if there is atrophy of the tissues, levator muscle you have to palpate. You have to see whether the person is able to squeeze the levator muscles. You put two fingers inside the vagina and ask the woman to squeeze your fingers using the levator muscles. So you have to see the strength of the levator muscles. Then test of urethral mobility. That is the Q-tip test. So in this, a cotton swab stick is introduced into the urethra till the bladder neck, and then ask the patient to strain, Valsalva maneuver. And if the swab stick moves more than 30 degrees up, this means urethral hypermobility is present. And then patient can have relief by doing surgery of stress incontinence. So Q-tip test is the urethral hypermobility if the angle formed is more than 30 degrees. Then urine analysis is to be done. Post void residual volume has to be measured. There is incomplete bladder emptying that may cause incontinence. Then cuff stress test. Examine the patient with full bladder and at the end of at the time and ask her to cuff and if see if the urine egress from the urethra. If on cuffing urine is coming from the urethra, this means the stress incontinence test is positive. Stress test is positive. Then bladder emptying is also performed by lost by weighing perineal pads before and after specified activities. Then paper towel test. It provides a quick estimate of the degree of stress urinary loss. The patient is asked to cough repetitively and forcefully with the paper towel held a short distance from the urethra. So these were the 2 urodynamics are done. These are the means of evaluating pressure flow relationship between the bladder and urethra. What are the indications of doing urodynamic study? Presence of mixed symptomatology means patient is having genuine stress incontinence, means when there is increased intra-abdominal pressure there is leakage of urine, plus detrusor instability means detrusor contractions are also there, instability is there. Marked pelvic organ prolapse, associated frequency of micturition, nocturia, voiding difficulties are there. There is high post-void residual volume, associated neurologic condition, previous failed surgery. Then, if the post-void residual volume is after she passes urine, do the ultrasound after 10 minutes of voiding. And if on ultrasound the post-void residual volume is more than 200 ml, it is abnormal, and normally it is less than 50 ml or up to 50 ml. So the various urodynamic studies are: first is uroflowmetry. It is the measurement of the rate of flow of urine. Volume of urine voided over time is plotted on a graph. Normal flow rate of urine is 15 to 25 ml per second. Flow rate less than 10 ml per second indicates atonic bladder or outlet obstruction. Uroflowmetry equipment measures the amount of urine and the flow rate. Computer is there to record the data. A graph is created that shows the change in flow rate from second to second. So uroflowmetry measures the rate of flow of urine. Normal flow rate is 15 to 25 ml per second. If it is less than 10 ml per second, then there can be chances of atonic bladder or the outlet obstruction. Then comes the cystometry. This test is done to assess the bladder and urethral function during filling and voiding phase. One is the single channel cystometry. In this, the bladder pressure is measured during the filling phase. Pressure recorded is the in the bladder is a combination of many pressure, even the intra-abdominal pressure, bladder pressure. So one does not get the true bladder pressure with the single channel cystometry. So multiple channel cystometry is useful. So multi-channel cystometry, in this the detrusor pressure is obtained by measuring the intravesical pressure and intra-abdominal pressure and then subtracting. So the pressure of the detrusor muscle is equal to intravesical pressure minus intra-abdominal pressure. In this, a catheter is used to empty the bladder completely. Then a special catheter is placed in the bladder, which has pressure measuring device called the manometer. Another catheter is placed in the rectum or the vagina to record the intra-abdominal pressure. The bladder is filled slowly with warm water or saline through a filling catheter. Person is asked to inform when she needs to urinate. When the urge to urinate occurs, the volume of the water and the bladder pressure are recorded. Cystometric phase of bladder function. There is initial small rise in intravesical pressure at the beginning of filling. Then during the majority of the filling phase, the pressure is stable. Then terminal increase in pressure at bladder capacity. When the bladder capacity is reached, there is terminal increase in pressure. And when there is voiding phase, there is an inconsistently observed rise in intravesical pressure. So the normal findings in cystometry are: First sensation of urination is at 150 to 200 degree cc. Then maximum capacity is 400 to 600 cc. Then intravesical pressure on filling is 0 to 15 centimeter of water. Peak urinary flow rate is more than 15 ml per second. If genuine stress incontinence, cystometric evaluation is normal. Values abnormal, then there is detrusor instability or urgent continence is there. Then post-void residual volume determination. Whenever there is high post-residual volume, this means either there is outlet obstruction or impaired bladder contractility. Test is done within 10 minutes of void and it is assessed by catheterization or ultrasound. Post-void residual volume less than 50 ml is normal and more than 200 ml is abnormal. Then UPP, it is the urethral pressure profilometry. In this, the recording pressure along the length of the urethra with the bladder at rest. Maximum urethral closure pressure is equal to maximal urethral pressure minus resting bladder pressure. So maximum urethral pressure is 10 to 15 centimeter of water. And if the maximal urethral closure pressure is less than 20 centimeter of water, this means sphincteric deficiency is there. Leak point pressure measurement. The bladder pressure at which voluntary leakage occurs from the urethral meatus, this is the leak point pressure. It can be two, detrusor leak point pressure or the abdominal leak point pressure. Abdominal leak point pressure is if more than 90 to 100 centimeter of water, this means there is stress incontinence due to urethral hypermobility. If it is less than 60 centimeter of water, this means that stress incontinence is due to intrinsic sphincteric deficiency. Video urodynamics. It combines a routine urodynamic study with X-ray or ultrasound imaging or MRI. It is used for patients with complicated urinary tract dysfunction. For example, urinary tract dysfunction due to neurological condition. ना मुझे नहीं शुरू से नहीं करनी स्टार्टिंग से नहीं अभी और Okay, I've already described you just about the genuine stress incontinence. Just to revise, what is genuine stress incontinence? It is involuntary loss of urine with the increase in intra-abdominal pressure, which ends abruptly with the end of the act. There are degrees of stress incontinence. Grade 1, when incontinence occurs only with severe stress, such as coughing, sneezing, etc. Grade 2, incontinence with moderate stress, such as rapid movement or walking up and down stairs. Grade 3, incontinence with mild stress, such as standing. The patient is continent in the supine position. I've already told you that it can be due to anatomical abnormality or the neurological abnormality. Anatomical abnormality can be urethral hypermobility or the intrinsic sphincter deficiency. I have told you it could be congenital, traumatic, pregnancy, prolapse, or postmenopausal, short urethra, obesity, I've told you general physical examination. You have to do abdominal examination for abdominal mass or distended bladder, chest examination for chronic cough, pelvic examination for the vaginitis, urethritis, atrophic or pelvic organ prolapse. Then rectal examination for anal sphincter control, fecal impaction, neurological examination for mental status, perineal sensation, sacral reflexes, then anal reflex. Spatial test, I have told you, stress test, ask the patient, you examine with the full bladder, ask the patient to cough, you see that the urine comes out of the urethra, this means stress test is positive. Perineal pad test, Q-tip test. So this is the Q-tip test. You introduce a cotton swab stick from the urethra till the bladder neck. Ask the patient to strain. If the uh, cotton swab stick moves upwards and makes an angle of more than 30 degrees, this means urethral hypermobility is there. This is the bladder diary patient has maintained. Investigations, I have told you, urine analysis is to be done, kidney function test is to be done, ultrasound for post-void residual urine is to be done for renal size, any bladder mass, neck, urethral anatomy, cystoscopy, voiding cystourethropography, urodynamic studies. In voiding cystourethropography, a radio-opaque dye is placed in the bladder through a catheter until the patient urinates, and radiographs, X-rays, anterior-posterior view, oblique, lateral views are usually taken before, during, and after voiding. And this test can reveal abnormalities of the inside of the urethra and the bladder. Green classification of stress incontinence type 1, there is complete loss of the posterior uretrovesical angle, and success of vaginal surgery is 90%. In type 2, there is complete loss of the posterior uretrovesical angle plus there is increased pubourethral angle more than 30 degree, and success of vaginal surgery is 50%, abdominal surgery 93%. So urodynamic studies, I have already told you the indications, doubtful diagnosis, complex symptoms, then previous unsuccessful operation. So there are various urodynamic studies, cystometry, uroflowmetry, post-void residual urine, tests for determination of bladder neck descent, Q-tip test, cystourethropography, urethral closure, pressure profile, leak point pressure, bladder leak point pressure, electromyography, video urodynamics. So this is the cystometry in which the bladder pressure is measured as well as intra-abdominal pressure is measured. I have told you the normal cystometry is resting intravesical pressure less than 15 centimeter, voiding intravesical pressure 30 to 50 centimeter of water, and first desire to urinate is at 150 to 200 ml and strong desire 400 to 600 ml, and no urine escapes during cough with full bladder. When there is genuine stress incontinence, resting intravesical pressure is less than 15 centimeter of water, there is no spontaneous detrusor contraction, but urine escapes during cough with full bladder in the absence of detrusor contraction. But whenever there is detrusor instability, resting intravesical pressure is more than 15 centimeter of water, and there is decreased bladder capacity that is less than 300 ml, and detrusor contraction is there either spontaneous or on provocation, and urine escapes during cough with full bladder in presence of detrusor contraction. So this is the normal cystogram at 150 to 200 ml of bladder filling. There is first sensation of urine, then 400 to 600 patient voids. So this is the normal cystogram, this is the detrusor overactivity, and this is the low compliance. So maximal urethral pressure and the maximum urethral closure pressure is the difference between the maximal urethral pressure and the intravesical pressure. And the functional urethral length is the length of urethra along which the urethral pressure exceeds the intravesical pressure. So the prophylactic treatment is the treatment of predisposing factors, good obstetric care, postnatal pelvic exercises, HRT in postmenopausal women, proper surgical technique to avoid scarring at bladder neck. Then conservative treatment first is to be tried, like the lifestyle. If she is obese, she should be advised to undergo weight loss, stop caffeine and smoking, fluid management is to be done. Medical treatment, estrogen either systemic or local in postmenopausal women. Alpha adrenergic stimulants is to be given. Anticholinergics. Then physiotherapy, pelvic floor exercises, or the Faraday current stimulation, mechanical devices, for example, pessary, weighted cones used pre-operative when patient is unfit for surgery. So rest the surgical treatment we will do in the next class.
Students, please mark